Okay, so so I suppose actually one of the things in my mind as we sit down is, do I call you Mr. Doodle or Sam?
You could just call me Sam, that's fine.
Okay, great, Sam. The exhibition at the Holborn's called Mr. Doodle Museum Mayhem.
Yeah.
Which came first, the title or the work?
I think the whole idea in the first place of kind of inviting me to do something in the museum was always going to be at least a little bit kind of disruptive, I guess, because just of the nature of my work in contrast to some of the other work that's in there.
Yeah, well, I think for us it's sort of, we want to bring your work to the Holborn to reach a different audience. But there is a sense of that, wanting that disruption, both to kind of, animate the place, and it makes, I think, us more conscious of what we do and the things you take for granted or you assume in a museum. And I think people think they go to an art museum, they have to be quiet and reverential, and I don't think it should have to be like that. And even the 18th century portraits were made for ballrooms and places where people would be partying and dining or whatever. So
definitely,
it ought to be a place of liveliness, and I think that's one of the things that your work can bring to it. But the focus is really on the sketchbooks. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, there's quite a focus on the sketchbooks. The doodles all kind of stemmed from sketchbooks. So when I was younger, I didn't really have the space to do things like this house. I didn't have access to all the walls and things. So all my kind of energy was directed into these very small books that would contain hundreds or thousands of hours of just tiny little doodles inside them. But then it kind of stems off from that in the museum into the form of walls and installations and stuff.
And can you see, as you look back to 2011 to now, is there a kind of stylistic development, as they call it, in art history? Does the way you do them change?
Yeah, I think so. For me, the most noticeable difference is that when I was younger, I thought that the most important thing about, for me, drawing was to create something really detailed and sort of felt really dense and heavy. And as I've got older, I've become more confident to not feel the need to sort of overcomplicate a drawing, and it's more about content of lots of different characters rather than making one character full of lots of dots and stuff.
Yeah. And then also in the exhibition, we're showing some canvases, which you're making especially.
Yeah. They're all kind of replacing paintings within the museum, and they're almost all responding to the ones they're replacing, or they're responding to the ones next to the ones they're replacing. So they all have some form of link to it without it being too overthought.
Right, yeah. And you're also making objects?
Yeah. The objects are more what felt right for the museum in general, a general response to the whole collection or the feeling of the museum. So some of them are kind of busts of Mr. Doodle, doing different poses, mimicking certain things from paintings that are in the museum. And other ones are things from characters from Doodle Land that look like they're just kind of a total difference to whatever everything else is that's there.
Yeah. But then it also spreads out through the building and into the city.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the drawings will be going onto the city in the form of different banners in streets and all sorts of doodle objects to really emphasise that idea of sort of doodling the world. And I think the whole point of my work is that it's not very subtle. It kind of consumes places, and it's quite loud, and people will be able to see it. And I really feel people will be able to feel the impact of the show that is happening through those things.
Yeah. And does the environment make a big difference? Because obviously Bath is quite a particular sort of place.
Yeah, the work's not really something that's supposed to really be offensive or upsetting to anyone, really. So it's kind of like a happy doodle takeover, and hopefully people will enjoy it. Of course, there will be some people that won't really get it, but it's not made with bad intention. So I think that's okay. It's not in everyone's kind of routine to go to a museum or a space to look at artwork, so I think it's important to get it out into the streets to people who just don't think to even to go to somewhere to go and look at art. It's really important to me to reach those people.
Yeah. Everybody doodles to some extent at some point in their lives, but there have been other moments when imagery like this or work like this has sort of come into a more kind of art worldy environments, thinking about sort of certain artists who've been called outsider artists.
Yeah.
Or someone like Keith Haring in the
Yeah.
1980s. And do you sort of feel like, I don't know, you're sort of somewhere in between that sort of network, or?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. I think about artists like Keith Haring, and I think the style is very similar with the lines and sort of the characters and stuff. But I think a lot of his work was kind of had like messages and statements he's kind of trying to say and stuff. And I don't really have that with my work. For me, it's sort of core of it is more about just like not really having that, like purposefully not kind of having that. I kind of feel like sometimes relate more to someone maybe like, I mean, I don't know what his intentions were with his work, but maybe like a Jean Dubuffet, you know, when he kind of creates these sort of endless kind of patterns and faces and stuff, and it feels to me that sort of more maybe in touch with the thinking behind the process.
Yeah.
This whole kind of idea of sort of doodleism as a genre, I think it's kind of existed for forever, but it's never really been considered like a genre. As people kind of see it as like a new thing, but I think people have been doodling, you know, even when humans first started making art and stuff.
Yeah.
It must have been the case.
So at the Holborn, as well as showing your sketchbooks and paintings and objects, which bit are you most excited about?
I'm really, really looking forward to doing the cafe window. I really love working on glass because it's so smooth, and it's like, you know, when you put a knife through like hot butter and it just goes right through it. That's what kind of working on glass is like, because it's just, I can work so fast on glass because there's no texture to slow you down. It's just gliding across it. And the ink doesn't tend to run out too much on glass either, so that's really helpful. And but I'm also, looking forward to every space for different reasons, like the Worth Gallery walls, that will feel kind of similar to this, I guess. So it's sort of like a recreation of part of the house, and it kind of gives people the opportunity to step inside what the house kind of feels like.
So so we got the exhibition inside, you've doodled over bits of the museum, and then we're going to have a projection on the front of the building. Tell me about that, tell me what you're doing.
I've never been able to actually draw on the facade of the building, but to be able to create basically an animation that the doodles are going to kind of take over the facade. I'm hoping it kind of takes sort of this idea of kind of graffiti and a mural and a piece on a building to a next stage by actually making it move, because I don't think too many people kind of tap into that, and I'm really excited for people to see that.
Yeah.
great to be doing something in this country really, and close to where I went to university, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, as long as there's not too much mayhem.
Yeah.